2. In 1922, a 15-year-old boy walked into a small auto repair shop in Tokyo for his very first day of work. The owner, not quite sure what to do with this skinny kid, assigned him the simplest tasks: clean the workshop and babysit his child. At the time, no one paid much attention to this boy. No one cared, because no one could possibly imagine who he would become. Fast forward a few decades, and that same boy, Soichiro Honda, was competing with the biggest automobile companies on the planet, while simultaneously building the largest motorcycle brand the world had ever seen, V's. It is the story of how a poor Japanese boy went from babysitting a mechanic's child to creating the multi-billion-dollar empire known today as Honda Motor Company. Our story begins in 1906 in a poverty-stricken village called Tenyu, near the foot of Mount Fuji. This is where Gihei Honda and his wife welcomed their first son, Soichiro Honda. His father worked as a local blacksmith and part-time bicycle repairman, while his mother was an expert weaver. Life was harsh. The family was poor, and Soichiro tragically lost 5 of his siblings during childhood due to illness. When he was only 8 years old, something happened that would change his destiny forever. While playing outside, he heard a thunderous rumble in the distance. Curious, he followed the sound and saw a massive piece of machinery rolling down the road on 4 wheels, a Ford Model T. The moment stunned him. He later recalled, "It was the first car I ever saw. I couldn't understand how it moved on its own. When it passed me, I found myself chasing it down the road as fast as I could." That moment ignited a fire inside him. From then on, he became obsessed with machines sharpening farming tools, repairing bicycles, and examining every engine he could get his hands on. But Soichiro hated school. His grades were so bad that he once forged his father's signature using a rubber stamp he made in the workshop. He eventually got caught and was punished harshly. In 1922, at age 15, Soichiro spotted a magazine advertisement from Art Shikai, one of Tokyo's best-known automobile workshops. He wrote to them asking for a job and, surprisingly, they accepted. So, he dropped out of school, left his home behind, and boarded a train to Tokyo. Tokyo was overwhelming for the young boy. The pace of life, the noise, the machines, everything felt like another world. When Soichiro arrived at Art Shikai, the owner Yuzo Sakakibara already had a job lined up for him. He would be a babysitter. For months, Soichiro earned no money. His work consisted mainly of carrying a baby on his back while sweeping the floor. The only reason he didn't quit was his refusal to return home a failure. But eventually, as business grew, the owner needed more hands in the shop and Soichiro finally got the chance he had been waiting for. He started with small tasks, then bigger ones, then full repairs. Soon, he became one of the workshop's most trusted mechanics. Sakakibara noticed the boy's incredible dedication and took him under his wing, teaching him not only repairs, but also the business side of automobiles. During that time, cars were rare in Japan. Most were foreign imports: Lincoln, Mercedes, Daimler, and early American motorcycles. Working on them gave young Honda an education no school could ever match. Art Shikai also pulled him into the emerging world of motorsports. In 1924, Soichiro helped build a racing car using a second-hand aircraft engine. That very same year, their car won first place in the 5th Japanese Motorcar Championship, with Soichiro serving as the lead mechanic. At just 17 years old, motorsports became his religion. In 1926, he failed a military exam due to colorblindness and was excused from service. This twist of fate allowed him to keep working and learning. By May 1928, his master, Sakakibara, decided to open a new branch in Hamamatsu and appointed the 21-year-old Soichiro to run it. The first year was brutal. No one wanted to trust their expensive cars to someone so young. So Soichiro survived on leftovers, the repair jobs. Other shops refused. But with sheer skill and relentless work, he built the branch into a thriving workshop with over 30 employees by the early 1930s. Honda wasn't just a brilliant mechanic, he was also a talented racing driver. School. He built his own car, the Hamamatsu, and set a national speed record of 120 kilometers per hour, a record that stood for 20 years. But racing was incredibly dangerous. In 1936, he crashed, severely breaking his arm, dislocating his shoulder, and damaging his face. After long, difficult arguments with his family, he retired from racing forever. Soon, he grew tired of simply repairing things. He wanted to create something bigger. He had an idea to start manufacturing piston rings, but when his investors refused to support him, he left to build his own company Tokai Seiki, Heavy Industry. But his journey into manufacturing would prove to be his most difficult challenge yet. His initial attempts at making piston rings were a complete failure. Out of the thousands he produced, only 3 met the quality standards. Humiliated but not defeated, Honda realized he needed to learn more. He enrolled in a technical school, but even there, he clashed with the system, refusing to take the final exam because he believed a diploma was less valuable than knowledge itself. He spent the next 2 years experimenting, sleeping in his workshop, and using his wife's jewelry as collateral for loans. Finally, he perfected his design. Just as his company started to take off, World War II began. His factory was hit by bombs twice, and then a massive earthquake in 1945 leveled what was left of it. His dream was literally in ruins. Soichiro sold the salvaged remains of his company to Toyota and decided to take a year off. He bought a large drum of alcohol and spent his days making whiskey for his friends, reflecting on what to do next. Post-war Japan was in chaos, gasoline was scarce, public transport was overcrowded, and people desperately needed a cheap way to get around. One day, Honda stumbled upon a small generator engine, originally designed for a military radio. An idea sparked. He attached it to his wife's bicycle, creating a makeshift motorized bike. It was noisy and smoky, but it worked. Soon, his neighbors were all asking for one. Seeing the demand, he bought up the remaining 500 surplus engines and started the Honda Technical Research Institute in 1946, working out of a small shack. When the engines ran out, he designed and built his own. This first original Honda engine was called the A-Type, but it wasn't enough. In 1948, he officially founded the Honda Motor Company, and a year later, released his first complete motorcycle, the Dream D-Type. It was an instant success. But Honda knew that to truly succeed, he needed more than just engineering genius. He needed a business partner. That's when he met Takeo Fujisawa, a brilliant marketing and finance expert. They were a perfect match. Honda handled the product and engineering. Fujisawa handled the money and sales. Together, they made a powerful team, and Honda's sales exploded across Japan. By the late 1950s, Honda had his sights set on a much bigger prize, the world. In 1959, he opened his first overseas dealership in Los Angeles. At the time, American motorcycles were big, loud, and associated with rebel gangs. Honda did the exact opposite. He introduced the Honda 50 Super Cub, a small, friendly, and easy-to-ride bike. The marketing campaign was legendary. You meet the nicest people on a Honda. Completely changed the public's perception of motorcycling. It wasn't for rebels anymore, it was for everyone. Students, housewives, commuters. By the mid-1960s, Honda was selling over 1 million motorcycles a year, becoming the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer. But Soichiro Honda wasn't finished. His childhood dream was always to build cars. In 1963, Honda entered the fiercely competitive automobile market. His first attempts, a small truck and a sports car, didn't sell well. The Japanese government even tried to block him, arguing that a new car company would hurt the national economy. Honda fought back, famously declaring, "I will not be defeated by the Ministry of International Trade and Industry." His breakthrough came in 1972 with the Honda Civic. It was small, affordable, reliable, and incredibly efficient. It arrived just as the 1973 oil crisis hit the world. While American companies were still building massive gas guzzlers, the Civic was the perfect car for the times. It became a global sensation and established Honda as a major player in the automotive world. Soichiro Honda retired in 1973, but remained a powerful presence in the company, as supreme of his do. He never lost his passion for engineering and was often seen walking through the factory floors, talking to young engineers. He passed away in 1991, leaving behind a legacy that was about more than just cars and motorcycles. It was about the power of dreams, persistence, and refusing to accept failure. From a boy babysitting in a dusty workshop to the founder of a global empire, Soichiro Honda's life is a powerful reminder that it doesn't matter where you start. It's the journey, the passion, and the relentless drive to create that truly define you. His philosophy was simple. Success is 99% failure. And it was by embracing every single one of those failures that he built a dream that continues to move the world today. Have you ever faced a failure so big it felt like the end? This is the story of a man who turned an endless string of failures into one of the world's most iconic brands. This is the incredible journey of Soichiro Honda. Born in 1906 in a small Japanese village, Soichiro wasn't a great student. He was a dreamer, obsessed with machines. At just 8 years old, he saw his first car, a Ford Model T, chased it down the road, mesmerized by the smell of oil. That moment sparked a lifelong passion. At 15, with no formal education, he left home for Tokyo to become an apprentice at an auto repair shop. For years, he swept floors and did menial tasks, but he was a sponge, absorbing everything he could about engines. By his early 20s, he was the shop's star mechanic. In 1928, at just 22, he opened his own auto repair shop. But fixing cars wasn't enough. He wanted to build them. He started with what he knew best: pistons. Working day and night, he poured his life savings into creating his own piston rings. His early attempts were a disaster. When he pitched his designs to Toyota, they tested 50 of his rings. Only 3 passed. It was a crashing public failure. Most people would have given up. But Honda wasn't most people. He knew he was missing something fundamental. So, he went back to school, enrolling in a technical college to study metallurgy from scratch. He traveled across Japan, visiting steel mills and foundries, learning from anyone who would teach him. He was relentless. Finally, after 2 years of trial and error, he perfected his design. This time, when Toyota tested them, they passed with flying colors. Orders flooded in. His company, Tokai Seiki, grew to over 2,000 employees. He had made it, but then, disaster struck. World War II ravaged Japan. In 1944, an American bomber raid completely destroyed his main factory. A few months later, an earthquake leveled what was left of his second plant. The end of the war, Japan was in ruins, and so was everything Honda had built. Defeated, he sold the scraps of his company to Toyota. He was left with almost nothing. Most would have retired, broken. Instead, Honda simply said, "I'm going to take some time off and think about what's next." Post-war Japan was a scene of devastation. Food was scarce, fuel was non-existent. People struggled just to get around. Honda himself couldn't find enough gasoline to drive to the market. One day, he stumbled upon a surplus of small generator engines, originally used to power military radios. An idea sparked. What if he could attach one of these tiny engines to a bicycle? It wasn't a new concept in Europe, but for Japan, it was a lifeline. He founded the Honda Technical Research Institute in a rundown warehouse with a team of just 12 men. They began strapping these engines onto bicycles. The bike engines were an instant hit. People were desperate for cheap, reliable transportation. Soon, their supply of military engines ran out. So, what did Honda do? He decided to build his own. In 1947, he created the Type A engine, the very first product to bear the Honda name. A year later, he officially founded the Honda Motor Company. But he needed capital to grow. In a stroke of genius, he wrote a personal letter to 18,000 bicycle shop owners across Japan, asking them to invest in his vision. 3,000 of them sent him money. With this new funding, Honda launched his first complete motorcycle in 1949. The Model D, short for Dream. But it was too big, too heavy, and not the revolution he envisioned. True to form, Honda went back to the drawing board. He spent years refining, redesigning, and perfecting his concept. The result was the Honda Super Cub. It was light, easy to ride, and incredibly reliable. Super Cub became an overnight sensation, winning the Emperor's Prize and dominating the market. It was a masterpiece of engineering and design. With the help of his brilliant business partner, Takeo Fujisawa, Honda scaled up production and looked overseas. Team. In 1958, Honda entered the American market. Their bikes were cheaper, more fuel-efficient, and more accessible than the big, intimidating motorcycles from Harley-Davidson and Triumph. Their iconic ad campaign, "You meet the nicest people on a Honda," completely changed the public perception of motorcyclists. By the 1960s, Honda had become the largest motorcycle manufacturer in the world. But Soichiro Honda wasn't finished. The boy who once chased a Ford Model T still dreamed of building cars. The Japanese government tried to stop him. They argued that Japan already had Toyota and Nissan, and the market didn't need another automaker. Honda ignored them completely. In 1963, he released his first vehicles, the T360 mini truck and the S500 sports car. They weren't massive sellers, but they were a start. To prove his engineering prowess, Honda shocked the world by entering the elite world of Formula One racing just 1 year later. In 1965, they won their first Grand Prix. While racing brought prestige, it didn't sell family cars. So, Honda refocused on the consumer market. In 1972, they launched a car that would change everything. The Honda Civic. It was a compact, affordable, and incredibly fuel-efficient car that arrived just as the world was plunged into an oil crisis. Its revolutionary CVCC engine was cleaner and more efficient than anything else on the road. The Civic was a global phenomenon. It was followed by the Accord, a slightly larger and more refined car that cemented Honda's reputation for quality and reliability. By the 1980s, Honda had grown from a government-discouraged startup into one of the biggest car manufacturers on the planet. Soichiro Honda retired in 1973, leaving behind a legacy of relentless innovation. Looking back on his life, he famously said, "Success is 99% failure." He wasn't afraid to make mistakes. He was only afraid of not learning from them. Today, the Honda name is on everything from cars and motorcycles to jets, boats, and advanced robotics. It all started with a young boy, a dirt road, and a dream. A dream powered by failure and a spirit that refused to quit. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories of the world's greatest innovators. We'll see you in the next one.